I know it's only game one of the NBA playoffs, but for one team, they look ready. The other team has a lot to learn. On today's show, I will break down what happened with the Cavs and the Kings game one series between the Warriors and the Knicks. I'm going to give praise to one of the teams and a verbal lashing to the other one. Cavs and Kings fans, let's ride. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for an all-new episode of the post-game podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sacramento Kings. This is Let 'Em Know Kings! And welcome to episode 7 of Let 'Em Know Kings, the post-game reaction podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sacramento Kings. The NBA playoffs are officially in full swing, and I know it's only game one, so I'm not going to get that much excited. But however, for one team in particular, they proved that they are absolutely for real, while the other team, they have a lot to learn. All that coming up today on this episode, recapping the two game ones for the Sacramento Kings and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Before we get into any of that, though, I'm your host, Skylar Weisberg, and it is my honor and my privilege of being your host today. And you can find Let 'Em Know Kings, which is free and available across 7 great platforms: Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, or you can go on to podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/CLESK, or you can download the free Spotify for Podcasters app, which is available on your iTunes or Google Play stores, and you can just type Let 'Em Know Kings on the free Spotify for Podcasters app. And once you do that, every single one of these episodes will be free and available. If you could be so kind and generous, please give the show a follow on those 7 great platforms. Turn on your notifications so you know about new episodes, and please rate and spread the word out to your friends about Let 'Em Know Kings, the official post-game podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sacramento Kings. If you can do those things for me, I would truly appreciate you all, and I thank you so much for tuning in today. Well, let's start with the most positive team and the most positive game one that I can think of, and that is the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings last night, as our Kings take down the mighty Warriors 126-123 last night in an instant classic of a game one. I mean, I gotta tell you, I was watching this game filled with a lot of excitement. I mean, I knew coming in that this was going to be a really close series, a really competitive series, because both of these teams, for the most part, have been pretty much even. I mean, the Sacramento Kings do have the number one offense in the NBA coming in. Golden State's offense relies on three-point shooting. Was it the most prettiest game? To some extent, no, it wasn't. I think Golden State came off to a better start than Sacramento, because Sacramento struggled in three-point shooting, especially early on. They've been doing that all year, so I'm not really surprised at that. But what I love about this win for the Sacramento Kings is they haven't been in the playoffs for 17 years. It's been since 2006 that the Sacramento Kings have missed the NBA playoffs. But they didn't play like a team that hasn't been in the playoffs for 17 years. No, they look like seasoned veterans out there. They look like a team that's been there before. They played like the Golden State Warriors from the 2015, 2016, 2017 destiny. They played that kind of playoff basketball. Now, I got to tell you, I need to give a shout out to the Golden One Center and the Golden One Center crowd. I mean, the atmosphere in that building was absolutely incredible. Even last night when watching this game, my dad came into the room and he said, I can feel the energy of the Sacramento crowd. And I agree with him. I absolutely agree with him on that remark because it is absolutely built different that the Sacramento Kings had the greatest playoff atmosphere that I've ever seen in a really, really long time. Now, granted, with 4 games today, the Lakers, Grizzlies, Clippers, Suns, Heat, Bucks, T-Wolves, Nuggets, I think all 4 playoff atmospheres could possibly top the Golden One Center experience. However, it was absolutely amazing to feel the energy in that building. And I'm not from Sacramento, California, by the way. I am from New Jersey. But as a Sacramento Kings fan, I was in awe. I was in absolute amazement about how much energy there was in that building. The Sacramento Kings fans showed up and showed out. There was an energy inside Golden One Center that was absolutely incredible. And the Sacramento Kings played very well. They did play very well against the defending champs. They weathered a few storms. Especially in that second quarter when Golden State outscored the Sacramento Kings 32-26. However, they banked but did not break, and they continued to weather the storm, and they continued to be resilient. And I think that's what a true playoff team like the Sacramento Kings is. The Kings have been resilient all year. I heard Malika Andrews on ESPN talk about in the buildup of the show that Mike Brown in the beginning of the year brought in an all-in contract for the Sacramento Kings to begin the 2020-23 season, to say, hey, it's not about me, it's about we. The reason why we go all in is because that we care about the team, not just ourselves. And to be perfectly honest with you, I wish that every single team models what Mike Brown just did. Because the words all in are the exact reason that the Sacramento Kings won this game. The bench was absolutely incredible for Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox was Mr. Fourth Quarter once again. I mean, if you're a Kings fan like me right now, you should feel extremely proud of your team, and you should be extremely confident going into Game 2 tomorrow night. Do I expect the Golden State Warriors to come back and punch us in the mouth sometimes? Yes, I do, because Golden State are the reigning defending undisputed NBA champions for a reason, and they do not get swept. So I expect a closer Game 2, maybe a little closer than last night was. But if you're a Kings fan, you should feel extremely proud of your team. The Golden State Warriors, 48% from the field compared to Sacramento's 45%. The three-point shooting, Golden State has the edge on that category, even though the Kings shot 37.5% from three. The Golden State Warriors made more threes than the Sacramento Kings. They made 16. The Golden State Warriors made 16, and we only made 12. We won this game because of the free throw shooting and the foul line, y'all. We shot 81% from the foul line compared to 78 for the Golden State Warriors. We got 50 rebounds. They got 41, including 17 offensive boards. That's something that Cleveland does not know what to do, does not know how to do. But we're going to talk about Cleveland in the next segment. They also dominated the Golden State Warriors in the paint 60-44. Now, granted, the Golden State Warriors lived and died by the three-point shooting, so we knew we had an edge in the paint coming in. Pretty much an outstanding game from the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. I'm going to give them the kudos and the credit too, because they are one hell of a team. They got one hell of a coach in Steve Kerr who understands how to play playoff type of basketball. He won an NBA championship as a player with the Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Chicago Bulls in the 90s, and he has led the Golden State Warriors to 4 NBA titles in the last couple of seasons with Golden State. So I expect the Golden State Warriors Game 2 to come in with a little bit of a punch. But if the Sacramento Kings can match that performance, if Sacramento can match that energy tomorrow night in Game 2, we got ourselves an entertaining series, y'all. The numbers speak for themselves. Steph Curry led the Golden State Warriors with 30 points. He grabbed 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Klay Thompson with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. But for the Sacramento Kings, listen, Andrew Wiggins off the bench was pretty outstanding for his first game back. He scored 17 points, 3 rebounds, and assists. Jordan Poole also grabbed 17 points with a rebound and 3 assists. But I want to give a shout out to the Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox, what can I say about this man? He's been Mr. Fourth Quarter for a reason, and he proved it again tonight with 38 points. He had 5 assists in this game. But Malik Monk off the bench sparked the living heck out of the Sacramento Kings. He had 32 points tonight. I think that's the main difference between a winning team and a losing team. When a winning team is all in, they understand that they can get a spark and a fire from anybody. And if you're Sacramento, you got a spark from like 2 different people. You got a spark from De'Aaron Fox, who's been Mr. Fourth Quarter all year, and you got Malik Monk coming off the bench and dropping 32. He was 14 for 14 from the foul line. 14 from 14 from the foul line. That ties an NBA record for the most free throws made during the NBA playoffs. Alex Len also stood out to me. Although he grabbed 4 points, he had 7 rebounds. Sabonis, it wasn't his best game. It wasn't his best game offensively with only 12 points, but he did do his thing, grabbing 16 rebounds, including 11 defensive rebounds. That's another double-double for Mr. Double-Double. Harrison Barnes had 13 points. But look, this was a completely great team win for the city of Sacramento, and for a city and for a team that hasn't been in the playoffs for the last 17 years. You guys have the legit right to celebrate for a few more hours. But we need to lock in, y'all, because Game 2 is tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on TNT. And Lord knows the Golden State Warriors are going to come in motivated. The Golden State Warriors are going to come with a purpose. So if we can match the energy and try to do the same thing that we did last night, but better, the Sacramento Kings could come to Game 3 inside the Chase Center with a little bit of a message. But can they match that energy? I think if we do the same thing that as we did last night, I think the Sacramento Kings can make some noise. But again, I said the Golden State Warriors and the Kings series can go to 7. So maybe the Golden State Warriors could potentially tie this series tomorrow night, or the Sacramento Kings can go 2-0 and send the NBA a message. But we will see how that plays out. I'm going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, and oh boy, I have a lot to say about that game, but we will get to that coming up after the Welcome back to Let 'Em Know Kings. We are recapping the Game 1s for the Sacramento Kings and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And you know why I did the sound effect? You know why I did that? It's because the Cavaliers deserved that sound effect as they lose Game 1 to the New York Knicks, 101-97. Before I get even into breaking down what happened to the fiasco for Game 1 for the Cleveland Cavaliers, I want to give the kudos and all the credit to the New York Knicks. I think the New York Knicks were the better team coming in. They outworked us. They outplayed us. They outcoached us. Tom Thibodeau deserves a lot of credit for preparing this New York Knicks team in the playoffs. And I think the experience for the New York Knicks in the playoffs have proven to be the X factor compared to the Cleveland Cavaliers experience because they haven't been in the playoffs since LeBron left. So I want to give the kudos to the New York Knicks for taking game one 101-97. Now that that's out the way, first and foremost, what the hell has been going on with the Cleveland Cavaliers, bro? Because after what I watched for Cleveland in game one, I am extremely embarrassed. I'm extremely embarrassed to do this segment, but as a passionate Cleveland Cavalier fan, I have to do it. And for any Cleveland Cavalier fan out there that are thinking it's only game one, we can bounce back in game two. And I believe that we can. I believe that we can bounce back in game two come Tuesday night at 7:30 on TNT. I love how Donovan Mitchell puts it. This isn't the end of the world. We got to get one right back. There is no room to sit here and feel sorry or feel upset and get down. It's one game. We will respond. That is how a leader responds to a game like this. But let's be honest here. Let's be honest. The New York Knicks came in here, took the Cleveland Cavaliers to the gym, and outworked us from the jump. First and foremost, all credit to the New York Knicks bench. The New York Knicks bench outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers bench as a whole. The New York Knicks dominated in that regard. Maybe the New York Knicks have better depth than the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not afraid to say that. Maybe Tom Thibodeau knows how to make the proper adjustments when it comes to the bench, and J.B. Bickerstaff doesn't. Now, J.B. Bickerstaff, this is his first playoff experience, so I will give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here, but not a lot because it was an absolute embarrassment for the Cleveland Cavaliers. The biggest thing that I took away from this game last night was the Cleveland Cavaliers did not have any energy whatsoever. And it is a damn shame because like the Golden One Center in Sacramento, California, the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse was an absolute loud house. It was rocking from the tip. It was rocking from the jump. The Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sacramento Kings both have, in my opinion, the best fan atmospheres in the NBA. And as far as like both crowds in Cleveland and Sacramento, these fans showed up and showed out. Unfortunately for the Cleveland Cavaliers, they didn't match that energy whatsoever. I think only one player for the Cleveland Cavaliers understood the playoff assignment. He understood what it was like to play in the NBA playoffs, and that man was Donovan Mitchell. I'm going to get into why he was the only Cleveland Cavalier that understood what it feels like to be in the playoffs in just a second. But the biggest stat that I took away from this game that was an absolute embarrassment, the New York Knicks out-rebounded the Cleveland Cavaliers last night 51-38. That is a 13-point differential when it comes to rebounds, including 17 offensive rebounds for the New York Knicks. Let me say that one more time. 17 offensive rebounds for the New York Knicks that created for the Knicks a lot of second chance opportunities. I mean, look, do we even know what the words box out really truly mean? Does Cleveland understand that in order to get extra possessions on offense, you need to grab defensive rebounds? Not just offense, not just defensive rebounds for Cleveland. You got to protect your paint. And I think Cleveland did a horrible job at protecting the paint on that regard, despite the fact that the New York Knicks outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers in the paint 44-40. All credit to the New York Knicks. They did a lot of pressure on the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Cavaliers were soft as tissue paper on boxing out. They didn't know what the words box out really truly meant. They didn't understand how to grab a rebound. They didn't understand what a playoff atmosphere looks like. And for the New York Knicks, in the words of J.B. Bickerstaff, they gave the Cleveland Cavaliers a wake-up call. They gave the Cleveland Cavaliers a dose of reality, and they taught the Cleveland Cavaliers that this was going to be a fight. This isn't going to be a sprint anymore. The playoffs are a marathon. The playoffs are a grind, and if you don't come correct, you're not going to win. If you don't come correct as a team, if you're not locked in as a team, you're not going to win. Now, I will say this. The Cleveland Cavaliers did show a little bit of resiliency, especially in the fourth quarter, because Donovan Mitchell basically put the Cleveland Cavaliers on his back and almost led Cleveland to a comeback. But when you give up 17 offensive rebounds, if you get outscored by the New York Knicks bench, and if you don't know how to grab a rebound and get stops defensively, you're not going to win. So the defense for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were the number one defense in the NBA coming in to the playoff series, was a little bit exposed. Actually, it was a lot exposed because we couldn't get offensive rebounds and we can't stop them from three-point range, especially Julius Randle. Let me quickly get to the stats before I talk about the standout players for this game. The shooting was pretty much even. The Cavaliers shot 43.5% from the field compared to the Knicks 42. The Cavs made 10 3. The Cavs made only 10 threes. The Knicks only made 8. The rebounds, as I said earlier, 51-38 in favor of the New York Knicks, including 17 of those offensive. The steals were 11-9 in favor of the Knicks. The blocks were 2-1 in favor of the Cavs. The turnovers, the Cavs, I think, did a good job of scoring off the Knicks turnovers. They scored 26 points off the Knicks 16 turnovers, while the Cavs scored 10. The Knicks scored 10 points off Cleveland's 14 turnovers. The points in the paint were 44-40 in favor of the Knicks, like I said. But the biggest difference, I think, when it came to game one, was the bench for the New York Knicks outworked the Cleveland Cavaliers as a whole, and the lack of rebounding by Cleveland, especially in the offensive end department, gave the New York Knicks a win. Jalen Brunson was absolutely outstanding for the Knicks. He led the New York Knicks in scoring with 27 points, 4 for 4 from the foul line, 11 for 24 from the field. He had 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. Julius Randle had another great game for the Knicks. He scored 19 points. It was 3 for 10 from three-point range with 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. Off the bench, Josh Hart. Josh Hart was an absolute X factor, and the New York Knicks couldn't stop him. They couldn't stop a nosebleed by the New York Knicks on the offensive end. Josh Hart had 17 points and 10 rebounds. 17 points and 10 rebounds off the bench. I mean, look, the New York Knicks just took the Cleveland Cavaliers to school. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm not afraid to admit that the New York Knicks came in here and told the Cleveland Cavaliers, this is how you win in the playoffs. For Cleveland, there was only one guy who understood what it feels like to play in the playoffs, and that man was Donovan Mitchell. He led all scorers with 38 points last night. He shot 14 for 30 from the field, 4 for 6 from the foul line, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 steals. Jarrett Allen had a respectable game. He had 14 points and 14 rebounds. Darius Garland had 17 points. He also had 4 steals and assists in this game. But the biggest surprise to me was the lack of production by the conceivably defensive player of the year, Evan Mobley. He had 8 points and only 11 rebounds. He also had an assist. He also had 2 assists and a steal. But I mean, look. If your defensive player of the year does not be productive, then you're not going to win games. I'm sorry if this offends some Cleveland Cavalier fans, but if anybody doesn't be productive, you're not going to win games. It can't be the Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland show every game. Especially, it can't be the Donovan Mitchell show every game of the season. Everybody needs to step up for Cleveland. One more thing. The Knicks won this game because of the foul line shooting. The Knicks shot 86.5% from the free throw line. The Cavs shot 71.5% for the foul line. That's pretty embarrassing, especially because of this. You're at home. You earned home court advantage for a reason. If you can't get rebounds, if you can't lock in defensively, and you can't make free throws, you're not going to win game one. And the New York Knicks came in here and simply embarrassed the Cleveland Cavaliers on our home floor. Game two is Tuesday night at 7:30 on TNT. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, my one key is this. How are you going to respond? You got hit in the mouth in game one last night. You now have a taste of what the playoff atmosphere is going to look like. Can the Cleveland Cavaliers respond to tie this series at a game apiece Tuesday night? Or are we going to New York with the Knicks leading 2-0 and the Cleveland Cavaliers would potentially have a big hole to climb out of? We will see how that plays out. But for now, though, that's going to do it for today's episode of Let 'Em Know Kings. Again, you can find this show on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, or podcasters.spotify.com/pod/show/CLESK, or you can download the free Spotify for Podcasters app. Please give the show a follow on those platforms. Turn on your notifications so you know about daily episodes so you know about the next episode, I should say. And please rate and spread the word out to your friends about this show. I'm Skylar Weisberg, and until next time, no matter where you go, be prepared to let them know. I will be back on Tuesday as we recap the Cavs and Kings game 2. We'll probably do 2 separate shows for 2 separate teams as we recap game 2. Until the next episode, peace.